Konnichiwa. This is the Shogunstein. This is a look at tree games that could be very good options for either homeschooling or for the classroom for topics related to social studies, particularly two games that could work for U.S. history and government, and one game that could work for economics. So some of you may or may not know that when I'm not a YouTube star, this channel is huge with our 800 subscriptions and our average of about 70 views per video. We're killing it. Here we're at Mr. Beast levels of YouTube influence. I do have a side hustle, gig economy in social studies. So I want to look at three new games that could be excellent options for homeschooling, for social studies, or possibly even the classroom. So we got from Coozies Game, By the Vote, which is about the presidential election and the electoral college. From the Bill of Rights Institute, the debate card game Fed Up, which looks at the Federalist, anti-Federalist debate over ratification. And then from the Flyer Brothers, a stock market themed game called Market Mayhem. Just in the interest of disclosure, the game Fed Up from the Bill of Rights Institute and Market Mayhem, given to us by the Flyer Brothers, we did get review copies. So just in the interest of full disclosure, I do have a relationship with the Bill of Rights Institute, and the Flyer Brothers did send us a copy of Market Mayhem. Coozies Game, By the Vote, I purchased at NCSS, the big Comic-Con for social studies teachers this week. So By the Vote is a game for 2 to 5 players. They're showing a 15-minute 15-minute playing time, which is important because in a classroom, if you have an 8 or 9 period day, you probably only have maybe 45 minutes. If you're in a classroom that has a 5 or 6 period day, maybe you have an hour. And if you do a block scheduling, then you do have more time. Obviously, if you're homeschooling, you are going to have more time. But player count may be an issue when you're homeschooling because I don't know how many people may be in your home. So in some of these games, you may want to get together with other homeschoolers or maybe have a large family. But By the Vote is a game with a 15-minute player time, could work in a classroom. So it's a very simple game. It's a kind of a chaotic game. In board gaming, we'd say it's a bidding game. It's pretty simple. You're trying to get electoral votes. You get money, and you have a certain amount of money that you can spend. You can earn more money as the game goes on, and you're going to be deciding, trying to bid on blue and red states, and then there are swing states. The swing state cards allow you to steal other players' cards. So that's a good thing. So you got to learn how to balance your money as the game goes on, and also you're going to learn the importance of swing states and how it could throw off all your planning. And then you also got to think about in terms of how much you want to spend. Do you want to try to get the big states, the small states? And one of the games that I played at the demo, some of the big states like California didn't come out to the end. And did you want to save your money to spend until the end of the game when those big states come out? So it's a really interesting game in terms of the influence of money and the influence of some states over the other states, and how, as you're looking to move towards that magic number of winning the election, how, again, what sort of strategy do you want to use? Small states, big states, swing states. It's a very chaotic game, very easy to play. You're just basically doing blind bids, and you either win the bid or you lose the bid, or it's a tie. And you're going to keep moving on, and things, you're going to keep your cards that you win, your electoral votes along the top here. Your last win. So I could have worked to win this Virginia 13 electoral. That's great. But if on the next turn, my opponent gets this swing state, and this was the last one that I won, they're going to take it. So it's really interesting in terms of what states to go for and the influence of money and how long you want to wait, and just to really see, you can really teach that electoral process. So again, a lot of times you get people that do ask, why do we have an electoral college? What's the impact? This would be a great game to use to show how the electoral college works and how you have to, again, you really do have to concentrate on a number of states, whereas in a popular vote, yeah, I could just go to California, I could just go to New York, I can go to Texas, Ohio, where in this game, you got to really have a balanced strategy. And again, gets up to 5 players, and it's real simple. You're bidding. You're gonna have a little thing here. You're gonna have a little thing that covers up, what your bid is. So you have like this little shield. You're gonna put the shield here. They're not gonna see what you bid. And here's the different money. And you're going to bid. And again, whether you win or lose, you're going to lose that money. So again, do you want to save that money? Do you want to hang on to it? And, when those big states come out, or do you want to go for that swing state and steal someone's electoral votes? So again, as we have elections, we just had an election, and get people to always question why, popular vote, electoral college. I feel this is a good game to teach why we have the electoral college and how people do campaign and what some of the strategies are. And again, think about some of those topics that have come up, some of those contentious elections, some of the ones that have been close, or some of those ones that kind of changed the electoral map a bit. Again, if you're teaching, you get to like 68 with the Southern strategy, if there was a Southern strategy, and you talk about, flipping the South, those types of things. I think this game could illustrate some of those issues with how the electoral college votes. And again, it plays quick, so you can get it in easily in a class, and it doesn't take very long to teach this game at all. You can learn the game very quickly. So that's By the Vote. Good game to teach at home or in the classroom how the electoral college works and the influence of money and swing states. The next game is a card game again, this has a bigger player count, so keep that in mind, 10 to 30 minutes. So that time is something, again, you could definitely do in a classroom. And in a classroom, getting up to 12 players on a deck is good, because depending on your class size, you might not need that many decks. Imagine you had a class of like 35 and you were trying to play Monopoly. How many people could you get on a Monopoly game? So 4 to 12 players. So if you're going to do this for homeschooling, which could easily, again, this is a good tool for homeschooling, but you're going to need to get more players to get this to work. And this, you're debating ratification. So if you're in that unit where you're doing the ratification of the Constitution, the difference between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. So those are going to be the two teams here. Federalists who want to ratify the Constitution, who want a stronger central government, versus the Anti-Federalists who are afraid of the federal government getting to be too strong. They want more power to the states. That debate between the Federalists, articulated by people like Hamilton or John Jay or James Madison, versus Robert Yates, Patrick Henry, George Mason, the Anti-Federalists. So this game, it's going to be, you got 2 sides, and one side's going to have a scribe, and you're going to get a card with a prompt, and that prompt will be a word related to the ratification debate that both sides would have had, feelings about. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a dry erase marker, and your scribe, you're going to get 5 words. Those words, again, come from the primary sources. So we need to teach primary sources when we're doing government or U.S. history, and especially the ratification, the debate, where you get, again, if you teach an AP government, you got to teach Brutus 1, the Anti-Federalist. You're teaching government, you got to do Federalist 10 as a required document. Again, you're doing a U.S. history class, you're probably using those documents as well. So you're going to get words taken from those types of documents. You can get 5 of them. And your scribe will rank them most to least important based on the prompt word. And then the other players, without talking to the scribe, would have to rank them, again, from most important to least important, as how a Federalist would or an Anti-Federalist would. And you're going to see if it matches up. So if I was the scribe and I ranked them a certain way, 1 to 5, then the rest of the team, they're going to rank them 1 to 5, and we're going to be seeing how many that we matched, and we're going to win cards. And if we, Again, we get enough cards, we spell out law of the land. The cards will have a letter on the back. First side that does that is going to win. The important thing is that you're getting vocabulary from the documents, and the people on the teams actually have to discuss it. So again, if I get a prompt, it's a certain word, and then I'm going to get these other words that are from the founding documents. How would a Federalist or an Anti-Federalist have thought of the importance of these? So we got to actually communicate with each other. So a lot of times in board gaming, you get what's called a solitaire game, where there's not a lot of communication. This game, there's a lot of communication. So people are actually talking to each other, and they're debating the different terms in the point of view. Point of view is very important, whether you're doing a standard level class, you're teaching AP, you're doing HIP, point of view, you're teaching IB, you're doing OPVL, the point of view. How would a Federalist have looked at these things? How would an Anti-Federalist look at these things? So a great little card game to, again, teach those concepts, to get some of those terms from the founding documents, to do it in a fun way that actually gets people to communicate. So Fed Up from the Bill of Rights Institute, which is a great organization for students. They have all kinds of homework help, videos on YouTube to help you if you're doing court cases or important things in U.S. history. They have a lot of opportunities, for a student essay contest, a lot of resources for teachers to use as well. So Fed Up from the Bill of Rights Institute, great game for teaching the difference between Federalists and Anti-Federalists and getting people actually to communicate. Last game is an economics game, Market Mayhem, with the theme of the stock market. Now, this is a bigger game. It's a longer game, 2 to 4 players. And there are different variants for this game, too. So you can change the amount of time that you play it. So this game, if you're going to be playing it in the classroom, you're going to want to maybe play some of the variants where it's only 1 or 2 rounds. If you're playing it at home, then you could probably do the full game. You would have no problem with the full game, 4 or 5 rounds. But again, if you are going to play this in the classroom, though this is a bigger game, you can only get up to 4 people on it. So you'd need several boards depending on the size of your class. So if you're homeschooling, obviously that wouldn't be an issue. And again, as opposed to these other games, this one works best with 5. This one, again, is showing up to 12 players. This game would work very well in the homeschooling environment because you could play it easily with 2 players. Now, this game teaches some very important economic concepts, especially related to the stock market. There's also math involved because you're going to get calculators. You're going to be doing the math involved with buying shares, selling shares, collecting dividends. So this is an excellent game. It teaches such concepts as market volatility. Again, math skills when you're looking at the gains and losses. There are the Market Mayhem cards are basically event cards. So you're seeing how these events that come up in the cards can impact the economy, the stock market. Certain things happen and how that could influence the economy. There's also, you get to see things like relevant markets, market sectors. You get to see the influence. Now, again, with some of these variants, you can change the variants where the event cards are more negative, maybe more towards a recession. So you get all these negative events, how they affect the economy. You can do the opposite. You can keep all the positive things in here. But I think it does a very good job of teaching some basic economics, some basic financial math, and teaching kids about the economy, and especially the stock market. So again, if you are in a classroom like financial math or, an economics class or an AP economics class, this would fit right in. Might be a good thing to do before your stock market game, before you start getting on all those computers and doing all those fancy programs. Teach the kids some basic stock market principles where, again, they're going to be using calculators, use math. They're going to have a board where they're going to be tracking the prices. And one nice thing the game does is they have the board that it comes with looks like a Monopoly board. Now, it doesn't play anything like Monopoly, but it makes it more approachable to someone who doesn't game a lot, and it looks like something that they know. Or, most people know what Monopoly is. It's not Monopoly, but it's not going to scare them off. If I brought and for instance, another stock market game is Stockpile. Great game, but it's a very complex game, and there's no way, in my opinion, you could use that in a classroom. And there's so many things going on, it would probably scare a lot of people. Great game, good game to bring to a board game group with maybe got heavier gamers. Maybe not a great idea in the classroom. Market Mayhem, on the other hand, because it looks something like Monopoly, even though it doesn't play like Monopoly, is way more approachable in my opinion. So again, if you are homeschooling, I think this would be even easier for you to use, and you'd be teaching, in a fun way, learning some very basic economic principles and learning how the stock market works. Ask your kids about something like sports betting. They all know how sports betting works because they're, all the things on social media or the commercials, but they should know the stock market. This is a fun way to actually teach the stock market. And to me, that's a much better lesson than knowing how to parlay on sports betting. And you actually, again, you have to track the prices. You got to, see how much you collect on dividends. You got to see how much you made, how much you lost. So you get to play around with that math and the gains and the losses. And again, you get these Market Mayhem cards. You get to see the impact of events. And then they start looking at, certain things. You can start seeing that, hey, certain stocks that are in multiple fields are much more volatile. For instance, another one like banking. In the game, banking, there aren't as many banking options. And for the most part, banking goes up. Whereas some of the other ones, again, you can look at you might be able to make a lot of money, or you could lose a lot of money depending on, how many different things you can manipulate it with, and how many different, are they in, technology and healthcare and, retail all at the same time. So I think as you're playing this, you realize that there are a lot more factors that can influence the prices of certain companies. Just again, overall, a very good way to teach again, some basic economic principles and how the stock market works. And again, if you're homeschooling your kids and you don't have access to one of these fancy stock market, programs that they have in some of the schools that they pay a lot of money for, you can get this game for, I think, about $40 off Amazon. And again, you're gonna have fun with it. It's a good family weight game. You can get everyone playing and actually learn something. I think personally it would work in the classroom, but you're going to need multiple boards, and you're going to use those variants where you can keep it to 1 to 2 rounds. And I don't see how anything can hurt that teaches some basic math. So Market Mayhem, great option for teaching economics and the stock market, whether in the classroom or homeschooling. So that's a look at 3 social studies themed games to try out either in the classroom or if you're homeschooling. That's Market Mayhem from the, again, you got the Market Mayhem, 2 to 4 players from the Flyer Brothers. You got the BRI with Fed Up, and you got Coozies Games with By the Vote. This is the Shogunstein. Look at some, again, social studies themed games. Shogunstein out.